West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte coeur.
Judge Cannon got upset with the Department of Justice and Dave Harbach, one of the lawyers for the prosecutors. She gets frustrated with him. She says he doesn't properly give her respect in the courtroom. And when he didn't come in with the goods at the last hearing, listing for her all the different ways that Donald Trump has suggested falsely, has argued falsely, including at the debate, that he was the subject of an assassination attempt by the FBI led by Joe Biden during the execution of the search warrant, under her auspices nonetheless, because they were armed, as FBI agents have to be. When Donald Trump wasn't even present, it was coordinated with his offices, with his security detail, with his family, with his staff, to make sure he wasn't present. Putting that little fact, that little stubborn fact aside, the judge got annoyed with Dave Harbach about, well, where is your evidence? You talk about his violation of gag orders. You talk about this or that. I want to see it. Submit it. I'll give you an opportunity, one last chance to submit it. Well, government has submitted it. They've got 11 different categories where Donald Trump, one of his minions, or somebody, one of his sycophants around him, have made the argument to the American people that the Department of Justice and the FBI are rogue and lead assassination squads, hit squads, killer hit squads. I'm picturing guys in leather with helmets and motorcycles trying to knock off Donald Trump like one of those, really bad action movies, when we know that the truth is much more simpler than that. He wasn't there when they executed a properly issued federal search warrant under the auspices of a federal magistrate. But this just gave the Department of Justice an opportunity, a great opportunity to tell the American people what evidence they have for this particular thing. I'm going to go through the 11 different categories of information that the Department of Justice has now submitted to Judge Cannon as document number 652 on the docket, meaning there have been 652 entries on the docket in this case since it started. And in this one in particular, I'm going to start with exhibit number 2. We'll put it up on the board. I'll flash it here. Exhibit number 2, or example number 2, is examples of Trump's surrogates amplifying his statements, alleging an FBI plan to kill him. I can't even imagine that these words would be formed in my mouth and have to come out during a hot take. That a former president of the United States or anybody else would suggest that Merrick Garland and President Biden and Chris Wray, the head of the FBI, are leading an assassination squad against somebody who's running for office against Donald Trump. And one of the ones they do is Patriot Takes, a Patriot Takes post embedding a Steve Bannon podcast excerpt, May 21st, 2024. And Patriot Takes got around, thank God, to finding a particular claim by Steve Bannon when he was interviewing Mike Davis, the founder and president of the Article 3 Project, which is a project that goes after federal judges because it talks about Article 3. And in there, as was posted on the 21st of May by Patriot Takes, Steve Bannon claims the Mar-a-Lago FBI classified document search was an attempted assassination by Joe Biden on Trump and his associates. Let's roll the actual clip.
Mike, what does Jim Jordan and Mike Johnson need? You should start impeachment proceedings just on that. They authorized deadly force. They had a medic. They had a plan to triage the wounded. They had a trauma center 18 miles away and a map. This was an attempted assassination attempt on Donald John Trump or people associated with him. They wanted a gunfight. They brought they had use of deadly force authorized by the director of the FBI and Merrick Garland. They brought a medic, a combat medic. They had a triage plan for the injured, and they had a trauma center. What more do we need? Good God in heaven, what more? President Trump just truthed it out when he walks out the courtroom. What more do we need to shut this down? What is it going to take? Are we going to send a sharply worded letter, Mike Davis? Is that what? Look at what the evidence is. The judge has known this. She's pleading for help. That's what she's got this trial of Jack Smith on the 27th, 28th, and 29th of June. Sir, how can we, if we tolerate this, we're tolerating the end of this republic, sir.
Now that clip, as caught, analyzed, put up on social media by Patriot Takes, is a lie. It's defamatory. It's inciting an insurrection. It's fomenting discontent. And Donald Trump did it again. I mean, we could use the debate as another example of this. But this was a classic example of the Trump campaign, that's all this is, trying to trampoline and amplify through the echo chamber of MAGA, through think about this ecosystem. You've got right-wing MAGA podcasters. You got right-wing MAGA lawyers. You got right-wing MAGA spokespeople. You got right-wing MAGA elected officials in Congress. You got right-wing MAGA state officials. You got right-wing MAGA heads of political action committees. You got right-wing MAGA communications directors. You got right-wing MAGA former people in the last administration of Donald Trump, many of whom are felons. You've got right-wing MAGA other podcasters, including Steve Bannon, like Rudy Giuliani and the like. You've got right-wing talk radio. Do I have to go on? And all of this ecosystem gets activated by a push of the button with Donald Trump through the chief lever pullers for him, Stephen Chung and Alina Habba and, fill in the blank. And then they go on Sunday morning talk shows. And if they can't do it, they get Marjorie Taylor Greene, or they get Boebert, or they get, I could spend the entire podcast listening to people that they would get. They get Comer, or they, oh my God, and then they go all on. So you got the Sunday morning talk shows using the same exact palm card of the same talking points as the podcasters, the fundraisers, the PAC spokesmen, the communications directors, the elected officials, and all they're doing is repeating each other. They're repeating the same lie, right? They're repeating the same lie over and over again, so that by the time you hear it, you think, I've heard that someplace before. Yes, from that guy over there, the lying guy who's running, the convicted felon who's running for president. That's where you heard it from. What's the old line about a lie goes all the way around the world before the truth even gets its boots on? Well, that's what we're watching. And so the Patriot Takes catching it is just our way of peering in to this ecosystem, this dark web-based ecosystem, and illuminating it right here on the Midas Touch Network. Now, let me give you some of the other examples, because I'm sure the Department of Justice got back to their offices or on the ride home from Fort Pierce, Florida, and said she wants an entire compendium of all the times that Donald Trump, where everybody in his world and all of his minions and all of his sycophants and this entire ecosystem repeated the lie that the Department of Justice is operating under Joe Biden death squads against the Trump family. Good. Thanks. That's a gift. They took it as a gift. And when you get a gift, you don't return it. So here's the gift that was given by Judge Cannon that's now been submitted to her. Exhibit number 1, the statements giving rise to the motion to modify release conditions. Remember, this whole thing is about he needs to be gagged. Now, it didn't help that Judge Merchan up in New York decided We don't need the gag order for most of the elements of the criminal justice system. And Donald Trump's allowed to go attack and bash Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels if he wants. He just can't attack certain elements of the criminal justice system on the prosecutor's side and my court side and all of that. And jurors are already discharged, so you want to go bash the jurors, go ahead. But so that, of course, is going to enter into the consciousness, the ken of Judge Cannon as she makes this decision. So they go through first all the Truth Social posts, fundraising emails, and all within the same very tight time frame. Because when the ecosystem moves, it moves as one all around a 72-hour period. So listen to these dates for the emails and social media posts and fundraising by Donald Trump, alleging that he was the target of an assassination attempt. May 21, May 23, May 23, May 24, May 25, May 21, May 21. Okay. Then Exhibit 3, I'll skip 2. That's the one we just did on Patriot Takes, which was also on the 21st. Bannon, go do it on the 21st. An example of number 3, Trump's statements regarding the FBI. He made other statements back in August about the FBI which sort of connect with this, and that's their argument. He made other threats against the FBI back in the August 9th to 11th time period during the execution of the search warrant. So the government says, that's a very good example. And Judge Cannon, you want to know more about him attacking court judges and courtroom staff? Then they go through everything back in which the Judge Chutkan is attacked, Judge Merchan is attacked, Judge Engoron is attacked. I mean, you name it, he's attacked it. And then judges and court staff following Trump's statements, there's then examples. They want to show the link, the call and response, the stochastic terrorism between Donald Trump and his followers, right? He says attack, they attack. And then they give examples in cases, United States versus Abigail, Joe Schrei, right? Trump versus Engoron, and all the examples of that. Articles about judges being subject to violence because of Donald Trump's attacks. Then they break it down on example 7. Here's the attacks on prosecutors, right? The Manhattan DA, the New York Attorney General, the Georgia prosecutor, the special counsel in this case. And then they go to witnesses being attacked in the District of Columbia and other cases based on his attacks. Then there's also, they want to show the awareness that Trump knows what he's doing, that when he pushes that button, it has an effect, right? It's not like the close the door button in the elevator. It actually creates, he hits a button and torpedoes fire. And so they give examples where Donald Trump recognizes that from his own statements, including his own town hall interviews with CNN. And then they go, there's other relevant orders out there in New York, in the District of Columbia that have been affirmed on appeal involving Donald Trump, which were not originally cited in the government's pleadings. Signed David Harbach and Jay Bratt on behalf of the special counsel's office. Now, I've done other reporting, including on Legal AF midweek, in which I told you that Harbach is getting sideways with Judge Cannon, and it may be impacting the ability for the special prosecutor, the special counsel, to be making compelling arguments in front of this judge. I mean, you may think the judge is not all there and is not very good and is not very smart, but you can't let the judge know that. And apparently Harbach has sort of crossed the line a number of times. And I've been aggressive in court at times when I need to be. It's usually for a purpose. But not disrespectful. And he's crossed over apparently to where she thinks she's being disrespected by him. And it doesn't matter whether he's really doing it or not. It's the appearance of disrespect. She even said, maybe you want to change horses here, Mr. Smith, and bring in a new advocate because this one's not being respectful. She said to Harbach, if you can't make this argument in front of me respectfully, with, as my grandmother would say, a civil tongue in your head, I'm sure there's somebody else on your bench that can do that. He finally realized, well, maybe I've gone too far. And what I'm worried about is the prosecutors are letting a little bit of their being flummoxed and flabbergasted by Judge Cannon seep into their argument, and it's coming off as disdain, which is not going to help them. Now, ultimately, the 11th Circuit's going to have to weigh in, but we're running out of time here. With the election oh so important, especially following the last debate, what happens in these trials is another body of work of Donald Trump that the American people should know about before they vote. I think anybody would agree to that. The only people who don't want that are the same people who don't want all votes counted and who want to suppress the vote. If you want to suppress the criminal justice process against Donald Trump, I am sure you also want to suppress the vote. You also want to find ways for minorities and blacks and women and people of economic disadvantage, who are economically disadvantaged, not to vote. You want to keep black churches from voting. You want to limit the length of time people have to vote. Only 1, 2, or 3 days. Do a lot of barriers and burdens to mail-in voting. Make drop-box voting. Make voting hard. That's the same person that doesn't want to know the results. They want to, like the classic statue of the monkey with their hands covering their eyes, their mouth, and their ears. They don't want to know from this. And it is important. That's what the government has to remember. I don't care about personality conflicts with the judge, but we need to get to an order that can be reversed on appeal in order for this case to be taken away from her ultimately. And so I care less about, the niceties of what happens in court and more about getting a decision out of Judge Cannon.
It is Monday, the 1st of July of 2024, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner the English Bulldog is our snoozing sous chef. Our door girl, Precious, well, I'll give you a little bit of news on her, but she's out sunning herself at the moment, and so that means we will be seating you directly for our especially special daily special River City Hash Mondays. Well, we had to give little Precious a little bit more care this morning, and so we had a fairly long clip by Midas Touch there, but a very important one nonetheless. We here at the mothership got some bad news about Precious on Friday. Dr. Dickey, our vet here in Rogue River, called and said that, the consensus from the two specialists, oncology specialists that he had been consulting with, have determined that she has the most aggressive and rare form of leukemia, AML. So, acute myology leukemia. So, there's 2 places in the whole United States. One's in Bellingham, Washington. Another one, I believe, he said is in Iowa. Could be Illinois, but I think he said Iowa. That do full bone marrow transplants for dogs. But the cost is through the roof. Let's just say it. Yeah. That's more than a down payment on a house. Anyway, the other is a sort of a drug cocktail where she gets, I believe, a chemical or a drug drip, chemo drip once a week. And then the other is just palliative care and make her comfortable. And so I guess I'm going to opt for the chemo. I think it's chemo, but it's a drug cocktail of sorts. And so she'll be going in once a week, and we'll see how that goes. Things to look for are that she doesn't want to get up in the morning and, have a good day or whatever. Well, she's been coming into my room. Yesterday, she climbed up on my bed. Of course, it was Sunday, so I was sleeping in. And she determined that 6:30 was much too late for me to be sleeping in. And so she came up on my bed, was giving me kisses, and her tail was wagging. And Dr. Dickey said if her tail's wagging and all that, those are good signs. So she was in my room here this morning as I was preparing for the show and sitting quietly. And I didn't realize she was there until I turned my head and noticed a little mass out of my periphery down on the ground, and it turned out to be dear Precious. She had been pretty sound asleep when I had just checked on her moments before, but that was a good sign. So I fed her breakfast, and in spite of the fact that it's very close to showtime, so I did that, and she does have some medicine that I have been giving her in pill form, a half a pill, which I've been continuing to do until they tell me to stop or I run out. Looks like I'll run out in a day or so. And then also the prednisone for her, which is the steroid and helps alleviate whatever it's alleviating that causes her to have a neurological issue in her back hindquarters. So she seemed to be in a little bit of pain after breakfast this morning and didn't really want to climb down the step out to the front yard. So I helped her. I gave her prednisone, of course. That goes in liquid form. So she's out right now sunning herself. She doesn't want to come in. She just wants to sit in the sun, and that's okay. I can't help but think. Of course, I can't help but think. And of course, we as humans always want to put our, human biases into all other living beings. But regardless of that, fact? Is that a fact? Anyway, regardless of that, from my experience with animals, pets, livestock, wild animals, it's almost like they know. And so they're enjoying every moment of the beauty of living. I don't know if it's beauty in their realm of whatever, but we're so lucky to be alive. We're so lucky to have had the mistake of the universe cause us to be able to amass all these cells into sentient beings, and that includes our animal friends. Okay? We're all in this together. So I'm letting her be, and she seems happy. Which reminds me, we had the celebration of life for Mom yesterday here. We had one in Southern California, and we had one here, and we had about 25, 30 people. So it wasn't, little. And set up tables in I got a big corner lot, and it's like a park. I made it into a little park with picnic tables and seating areas. So I put the tables out and set up the chairs and in the shady spots because you need shade. And it wasn't ungodly hot. It got warm, but it's livable for us. And had the meal and the gathering outside, and it wasn't anything really formal. Very casual, and had a good meal and laughs. Watched my sister's video testimonial that she made with the photographs over the ages, and really a good time was had by all, which is the way we and Mom always wants those things to be. So it was, but little Precious loves being around people. So does Gunner. Oh my God, what an attention hog that English bulldog is. Anyway, Precious was okay, tail a wagging, ears up, and having fun, and staying out of people's way, loving the attention of being picked up by people and loved. And so we'll see how it goes. I called Dr. Dickey today to set up the regimen, the drug cocktail regimen. The affliction is so rare that very few studies have been made, and those studies that have been made have had such small sample sizes. But in the samples from the few studies that have been made, more have lived than have died through this procedure. And there's been, I'll just give you the numbers. 4 of the amount, I think it was like about 12 or something like that, lived for over 3 years and were in full remission. The other 6 lived like from like a year or so, and apparently they were only in partial remission when they went, and a couple of others passed within a month or two. So I was actually told that maybe it might be that she could go in a month, or she could go in a year or 2 years. But whatever we do, I want her to be comfortable, and I don't want her to suffer. And if it goes into her organs and has a liver issue, those are painful. I don't want her to go through an agonizing death like that. I did that to poor Ginger. I thought that it would be okay, but I didn't realize the agony involved. So I told Dr. Dickey about that because I need to sort of protect myself from myself. And I thought maybe going in once a week it gets another set of eyes on Precious, because I may be not wanting to admit to things that are happening when they're happening. Yep. I guess I'm not an expert, so therefore I can't be a judge either. Poor boy. Yeah. Supreme Court has given, just before showtime, Supreme Court has given Donald Trump the enabling acts. Basically saying, anything he does as an official act, he is immune from. So overthrowing the United States of America, stealing nuclear secrets for sale to hostile foreign powers who have declared war on us. Those all can be construed as official acts. Taking money from the Chinese government to circumvent our elections, that could be construed as an official act. He did that as president to stay president, so therefore he's immune. 6-3. Okay. No 5-4. 6-3. All right. So I guess that means that we have to win this election, and we win this election not by kicking Joe to the curb. I am getting over this BS about Joe needs to drop out. How does that work? How does anybody who's replacing Joe Biden on the ballot get their name on the ballot when deadlines have already passed? We're going to make a specific exception for that. Give me a break. We voted in the primaries for a slate that we wanted, and millions of us did that. Why are we being told, no, Joe faltered, so we have to go change horses in midstream? Oh, really? Did he falter? Do we hear nonstop about Donald Trump falling asleep in his trials because it was too early in the morning? And now we're being told, and I've got to say by some friends who say, well, if he's performing in the best of conditions, and why? How can he be president? Because he broke OPEC just last week. The day after the debate, he has a rally that is, is Joe. And then he was at a barbershop. He didn't call into a barbershop like Trump did. He was at a barbershop, fully engaged, cracking jokes. People are just like, Joe Biden, he's our guy. And even after the debate, when independents, I suppose, were being asked these questions about how did the participants fare in the debate, by and large, those independents were not in a media bubble, were not part of any media coverage of what has been going on, and they answered honestly and said, I like the guy that doesn't lie. No talk about, but Joe Biden was feeble, so I can't vote for him. He was so feeble. All they could talk about is that Donald Trump had no solutions, and all he did was trash the United States of America and lie. And Joe cited his accomplishments and told the truth. I don't want to hear this BS. We got to get rid of Joe, because that means we get rid of Harris as well, and that's not going to happen. That's what that's all about. The reason we have a vice president is when the president dies in office or becomes incapacitated, that person steps in, and we voted for her for this exact contingency. FDR died within months? 6 months, 4 to 6 months after he was back in office, and then Truman took over. That's what people voted for for exactly that situation. Jeez. All right. Well, there's a freak out on some people, and I don't want to take advice from Bernie Bros. All right? We went through this in 2016 with Hillary. We're not going to go through it again. We learned our lesson. All right? Please, wake up. All right, I better tell you what we have in store for you here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, because we better get right on into it. And, okay, well, we already know about Cannon at the top. Boy, that's a whole other can of worms. Here on the rest of the menu, 9 Oregon Senate Republicans are seeking to tie rising electricity rates to a program that is not yet in effect. All right. They make their own reality, you know. Nevada has verified enough signatures to put a constitutional amendment for abortion rights on the ballot. Well, that's good news. And California is the first of 3 states to pass bills requiring tracking codes for gun stores, while 17 states have passed bills barring or limiting gun store codes. After the break, we move to the chef's table, where Australia has appointed only the 2nd woman governor general in 123 years to represent the British monarch. Or it should be the British monarchy. Or is it the British monarch? Actually, we'll keep it with that, the British monarch. And the European Union is escalating its scrutiny of the artificial intelligence industry, and good thing too. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Is that it's Monday. We're going to forego the usuals. It has become the usual thing to do, is to forego the usuals. Anyway, we're going to tuck right into this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays. And it is out of the Oregon Public Broadcasting website by Monica Samayo. Oregon Senate Republicans are questioning whether the state's environmental agency has authority to recreate and implement a program that would drastically reduce greenhouse gas emissions from fossil fuel companies, a task those lawmakers should be taken up by the legislature instead. In a letter addressed to the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality on June 19th, 9 Senate Republicans outlined their concerns about rising electricity rates and a potential connection to the to the state's climate protection program. They also questioned whether the Department of Environmental Quality, the DEQ, has authority to create and implement the program after the Oregon Court of Appeals ruled the agency's first attempt invalid. In their letter, the Senate Republicans shared deep concerns about the program and claimed that its previous implementation has contributed to Oregonians' rising electricity costs, not the power companies and their criminal management of wildfire mitigations for their wildfire starting apparatus. I'm just saying. 6 of those lawmakers are in their final terms and barred from seeking re-election after they walked out during last year's legislative session, so this is their get back.
Anyone who thinks that all these increased costs and program operations will be borne by the utility or borne by the industry is living in an alternative world because they will pass all of those costs on to consumers.
Well, no shit, Sherlock. We've been saying that since, I don't know, when Wilson was governor of California. And I know it's Oregon, but I'm just saying. Well, Finley said the program is partially to blame for the current surge in electricity rates, a claim that environmental regulators dispute because of the main reason: the program does not exist. Gabe Stern over at the Associated Press brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. A ballot question to enshrine Nevada's abortion rights in the state constitution has met all the requirements to appear in front of voters in November, the Nevada Secretary of State's office announced over the weekend, and Democrats across the nation hope similar measures mobilize supporters on Election Day. They have made abortion rights a central message since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, but a state law is easier to pass and more valuable to change than the constitutional protection organizers are seeking, who are trying to make a constitutional amendment on the national level, of course. Voters must approve the ballot question in both 2024 and 2026 to amend the state constitution. County officials from across Nevada approved the required number of signatures from Nevadans for Reproductive Freedom, the political action committee that organized the ballot initiative. The Nevada Secretary of State's office certified those totals according to a memo sent to organizers over the weekend. Associated Press brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays. Beginning today, a California law will require credit card networks like Visa and MasterCard to provide banks with special retail codes that can be assigned to gun stores in order to track their sales. But new laws will do the exact opposite in Georgia, Iowa, Tennessee, and Wyoming by banning the use of specific gun shop codes. The conflicting laws highlight what has quietly emerged as one of the nation's newest gun policy debates, dividing state capitals along familiar partisan lines. Some Democratic lawmakers and gun control activists Hope the new retail tracking code will help financial institutions flag suspicious gun-related purchases for law enforcement agencies, potentially averting mass shootings and other crimes. Lawmakers in Colorado and New York have followed California's lead. The merchant category code is the first step in the banking system saying enough. We are putting our foot down, said Hudson Munoz, executive director of the nonprofit advocacy group Guns Down America. You cannot use our system to facilitate gun crimes. Well, I expect the MAGA SCOTUS to say, oh yes, they do. They're immune because, well, they say so, don't they? Read the rest of the article. It's in the links provided at the links diaries that I post on Daily Kos, so check it out. And it is now time for our break, and when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You were listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. This week, Goodfellas on Bikes. The latest offering from Jeff Nichols and his first in 8 years is The Bike Riders, a film based on photojournalist Danny Lyons' expose about the 60-70 Chicago area biker club, The Outlaws, here called The Vandals. The format is that of a narrative with Lyons, played by Mike Feist in his vintage portable recorder, interviewing Jodie Comer's character, Kathy Cross, wife of the film's lead Benny Cross, brought off by the ubiquitous Austin Butler. The interview is interspersed with action scenes that depict the evolution of the club from its founding as a recreational group by family man Johnny Davis to the criminal outfit it eventually became by the early 70s. Johnny, he's the Tom Hardy character, explicitly claims inspiration from Marlon Brando's character in The Wild Bunch and is without doubt the picture's most tragic character, with what happens to him being a demarcation in the transition from idealism to reality and a story that might not be without real-world parallels when different groups with asymmetric views of rules and norms meet. Obvious questions about screenplay adaptation arise with any movie based on a book. Since this one's drawn from what amounts to a captioned picture book, much more is original to Nichols and company, especially with regard to character development. They had the luxury of many still alive people with whom to work and an obviously talented cast. Nichols has stated he doesn't much care for the Goodfellas comparison. In my mind, though, there are worse films to which a director's project can be compared, and it seems appropriate. Like his others, Bike Riders avoids sensationalism and gives us gritty atmospherics while opening a window into this curious sliver of U.S. social history. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. Catch up with us at take2moviereview.com and feed us back on our channel on YouTube.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Good eating habits developed in childhood can last a lifetime, but getting children to eat their fruits and vegetables is a common problem. Eating them adds important nutrients, helps control weight, and reduces the risks for many serious illnesses. Children in the U.S. are eating more fruit. However, 60% of children get fewer fruits than recommended, and 93% don't get enough vegetables. Childcare, schools, and school districts can help change this by meeting or exceeding federal nutrition standards for meals and snacks, including fruits and vegetables wherever food is offered, and helping children learn about and taste fruits and vegetables. At home, parents can eat a variety of fruits and vegetables with their children and provide them as snacks, even if it takes many tries. Also, parents can include their children when shopping for, growing, and preparing fruits and vegetables. To learn more, visit cdc.gov/vital signs.
For the most accurate health information, visit www.cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Arthritis is common among veterans. Traumatic and overuse injuries during active duty are risk factors for developing arthritis. Fortunately, there are low-cost or no-cost strategies that can help veterans manage arthritis. Physical activity can reduce pain and improve function. It can also help improve mood and play a role in managing other chronic conditions, such as heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. You can do low-impact activities, such as walking, biking, swimming, and water aerobics, all good forms of exercise. Arthritis-specific classes can help you get started. Information on classes, exercise programs, and tools are available at cdc.gov/arthritis. These resources can help reduce pain and improve function. Learning self-management techniques can help all veterans become more active, improve their overall quality of life, and thrive.
For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
Hi, I'm Tom Hartman, and since you're listening to netrootsradio.com, show your progressive side and go to the donate button on the bottom of the homepage. It's progressives like you who power Netroots Radio and keep the progressive message beaming everywhere 24 hours a day. Just go to our donate button at the bottom of netrootsradio.com. Thank you for keeping progressive radio at full power.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. President Joe Biden's poor performance at the first debate with Donald Trump precipitated conversations about nominating another candidate at the convention. Can that happen? And what's the difference between an open, brokered, or contested party nominating convention? Political parties make the rules about how their nominations for president and vice president are decided. Should Biden withdraw and release his candidates, the convention would be open. If he doesn't, DNC rules state, delegates elected to the national convention pledged to a presidential candidate shall in all good conscience reflect the sentiments of those who elected them. When a candidate enters the convention without enough delegates to win on the first ballot, the convention is contested. From the primaries, Biden has almost 3,900 pledged delegates and needs only 1,968 to win on the first ballot. If a nomination is made from the floor to challenge Biden, that candidate is not likely to succeed because the overwhelming number of delegates are pledged to Biden. A convention is brokered when candidates have no clear majority after the first round of nominations at the convention. Party leaders then negotiate with state delegations to secure a majority, such as happened in the close Carter-Kennedy race of 1980. While it's unlikely, remember that parties make their own rules and can change them. We've linked to convention explainers and the DNC rules at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1929. That was the day 1,800 streetcar drivers and motormen walked off the job at New Orleans Public Service. The Amalgamated Association of Street and Electric Railway Employees, Division 194, had been in contract negotiations for months. They demanded higher wages, a closed shop, and an end to arbitrary discharges. The company was looking to bust the Amalgamated with the creation of a company union. For the first few days, the strike was quiet. But then, on July 5th, the company brought in strikebreakers. 10,000 union members and their supporters gathered to stop scab service. The company attempted to run a lone streetcar down Canal Street. Immediately, it was pelted with bricks and stones. The scab driver bailed. Another 4 cars attempted to leave the car barn. Pitched battles raged for hours with police and scabs. 2 union men were shot and killed by scabs and hundreds more injured. Trade unions throughout the city threatened a general strike. The strike raged on for 2 months. Throughout the summer, trolleys were burned to the ground, tracks destroyed, switches cemented in place. As the weeks wore on, conditions became more desperate. That's when Clovis and Beanie Martin, former Division 194 conductors, decided to help out. They had since left public transit to open the Martin Brothers coffee stand and restaurant. They declared to their former union brothers, quote, "We are with you, heart and soul. We are with you till hell freezes over." They offered free supersized sandwiches for the poor boys. The strikers would eventually win some of their demands. The sandwiches would become a standard in New Orleans cuisine, better known as the Po' Boy. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at laborhistoryin2.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. River City Hash Mondays. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and we have an excessive heat watch for the rest of the weekend, though today we're expecting highs only about, 88 to 90, which is tolerable because that's about what it was yesterday. Winds will be out of the northwest and picking up to 10 to 15 miles per hour throughout the day, so a hot wind. Clear skies overnight with lows in the mid-50s, winds out of the northwest, continuing at a, I wouldn't say brisk, but a hot 10 miles to 15 miles per hour. Let's get this stupid pop-up that just came in popping up. Oh, good. It's gone. Tomorrow we will have highs in the low to mid-90s, sunny throughout the day, winds out of the northwest at a hot 5 to 10 miles per hour. We are expecting highs around 105 up to 112 from the middle of the week through the weekend. So we'll see if that changes. We just don't know. It will stay hot. We know that. Grass pollen is rated high here in Rogue River. The air quality index for the region is in the good range at 12 parts per million. That's pretty low, though that daytime UV index remains very high at level 9. So take care. Your skin is very fragile. Barometric pressure is falling at 30.13 inches. Visibility is up to 9 miles, and relative humidity is at 70%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world, and that is the Weather Underground. London is 68 degrees and cloudy. Paris is 70 degrees and mostly cloudy. Rome is 86 and sunny. Kabul is 76 and clear. Hong Kong, yes, is 76 and fair. Tokyo is 78 and cloudy. Auckland, New Zealand is 53 and fair. San Francisco, California is 63 degrees and sunny. Chicago, Illinois is 65 degrees and sunny, and New York is 74 degrees Fahrenheit and cloudy. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. Todd McGurk at the Associated Press World Desk brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy River City Hash Mondays. Australia appointed Sam Mostyn as only its second woman governor-general, a largely ceremonial role representing the British monarch, who is the nation's head of state. Oh, really? It is the first such Australian appointment since the reign of King Charles III began in 2022, and the first by Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's centre-left Labour Party government that wants to replace the British monarch with an Australian president as head of state. The businesswoman and gender equality advocate, who in 2005 became the first Australian Football League commissioner, was sworn in as Australia's 28th Governor-General since 1901. In her first speech in her new role, Mostyn quoted Australia's first woman Governor-General, Quentin Bryce, who described her role in 2013 as striking a balance between observing traditions and protocol and being thoroughly contemporary. I will be an optimistic, modern, and visible Governor-General, committed to the service and contribution that all Australians expect and deserve from the holder of this office, Mostyn said. She had spoken before about the role with all 5 surviving former Governors-General, including Bryce, who was appointed by Queen Elizabeth II on the advice of a Labour Prime Minister, and served from 2008 and 2014. A Labour minister that apparently must remain unnamed. Chan at the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The European Union is escalating its scrutiny of the Artificial Intelligence Agency, including taking a fresh look into Microsoft's multi-billion-dollar partnership with OpenAI, a top EU official said over the weekend. The European Commission, the bloc's executive arm, started reviewing the deal last year to see whether it broke EU merger rules, but dropped it after concluding Microsoft had not gained control of OpenAI. The Commission's executive vice president for competition policy said in a speech, and that would be Margaret Vestager. She signaled that the Commission would take another tack to examine the deal in the industry more broadly. It's using the bloc's antitrust rules, which target abusive behavior by companies that have a dominant market position. Excuse me. The Commission sent information requests in March to big AI players, including Microsoft, Google, Facebook, and TikTok, reviewed those replies and is now sending a follow-up request for information on the agreement between Microsoft and OpenAI, Vestager said. The EU wants to understand whether certain exclusivity clauses could have a negative effect on competitors. A Microsoft spokesperson said, "We appreciate the European Commission's thorough review and its conclusion that Microsoft's investment and partnership with OpenAI does not give Microsoft control over the company. We stand ready to respond to any additional questions the European Commission may have. I bet they do. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, but you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up here tomorrow for Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks, and we will meet up here tomorrow, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théères, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goer. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.